All right, we're gonna see if we can one-shot this video more or less. More or less, because I'm tired as fuck, low energy, bitch. You can say my name for days and the hits will keep on coming. I'm Renegade Operative, I'm your color commentator today. And we're talking about IP neglect and IP abandonment. The first thing I want to say here before I continue is please watch the previous video in the description. It's almost like this is like a part 2 to a part 1, so to speak. I implore you to watch my video about mascot abandonments and why studios get rid of mascots with new IPs on the horizon, because this is kind of like the same flavor of video just set in a different way. Just check that out, come back, watch this one. It's gonna be all fine, don't worry about it. My take on IP abandonments and what does this mean when this happens. All right, so just like mascots that get abandoned, you can particularly say that those IPs get left in the dust. Like, no one does a video game on them for years, nobody cares. Either they don't sell well when an IP is like abandoned, and I think that's pretty bad for the next part of this video, which I'm gonna discuss. But it's basically leaving that particular intellectual property in the dust and not doing any other entries going forward. You know, no remakes or nothing like that, no sequels, no progression whatsoever on the franchise. The developer has completely abandoned the IP. Hence IP abandonment or IP neglect with a certain franchise or video games. Namely, we're talking video games here. I'm sure there's movies out there that does this, but I'm talking mostly about video games. But I guess you can apply it to like a lot of differing media, TV shows, movies, IP neglect. My take on this is that I feel like this is really fucking stupid, okay? For the reason of good games getting IP abandonment, because it is publishers sitting on their ass, sitting on an IP, and if it's good, they're not doing anything new with it. They're letting it go to waste. And this is like baffling to me for a lot of reasons. Like, you can have another creative AA developer or a developer come in and work their magic and their passion, an indie developer, it doesn't matter, just to continue this franchise. It's so fucking lame when there's an IP with a lot of potential and you see it, you see the red line, right? Well, I should say the green line, but I don't know, some of these developers, they won't see any of that, but you see the line there, right? It doesn't matter the color, you see it, and if it's good, you see the potentials. Maybe something could be fixed or whatever and make it better, but you see that it was a unique game or franchise and they're just letting it sit and rot forever. And I don't like this at all, because again, I feel like publishers, they have a different agenda for judging how a game is coordinated versus a developer. It's always been like that. It's always been about what is the bottom line for these games, and are we going to continue them or not, which is why some of these IPs get abandoned in the first place. Like, maybe it wasn't that popular to a developer, and that's really fucking dumb. I really hate it, all right? And there's a reason I hate it. I can understand the intent, I can understand why something doesn't sell and you don't want to go forward with it, but it doesn't mean that that particular franchise or IP wasn't creative. Let's use an example. The Evil Within 1, The Evil Within 2, they are fantastic games from what I played, but the problem is we had that situation with Microsoft where they were like, okay, fuck Tango Gameworks, they can make us like Hi-Fi Rush, we don't give a shit, right? We're going to get rid of them. We're going to make the tough call, get rid of them, strengthen our other portfolio of IPs, and eventually Krafton picked up Tango Gameworks, which is the developers and producers. I don't know. I think the publishers behind Callisto Protocol and the other developers, I forget their name, Striking Distance, they are the ones that made the game. So that's a little mishap I corrected there, but still, nonetheless, I'm sorry, I'm tired, by the way, so bear with me. But nonetheless, this is so stupid because it means that, yes, we got Tango Gameworks back into position. They are fine now in terms of like making games. They own Hi-Fi Rush now. They can make a sequel. That's cool. Yet Microsoft owns the publishing rights for The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, and I guarantee Xbox, they ain't gonna do shit with those. They're not gonna do shit with them. They're not gonna do nothing, all right? It's just gonna sit there for years and years and years until they have the balls and tenacity to put in an internal studio to make an Evil Within 3 or spin-off or remake or something like that. They're not gonna do any of that, all right? That IP is probably dead in the water. Rare, for the longest time we saw Rare just absolutely get poured out to live service with Sea of Thieves, and they made Banjo-Kazooie, they made Killer Instinct, they made a lot of games that people liked, and they're not behind them anymore. Even though Microsoft kind of put out Killer Instinct, the new one, I think that came out like 2013, I forget. They haven't made a sequel since. It's been kind of dormant. It's been kind of dead. I put a Reddit link to like a lot of these games. Sleeping Dogs from Activision and United Front Games, they shut those motherfuckers down. Sleeping Dogs was like amazing. They were gonna make a sequel, canceled. Prototype, I liked Prototype 1 and 2. It's a superhero game. You can go around and eat people and turn into multiple people. You play as Alex Mercer or James Heller, trying to uncover the truth behind your origins and why something happened. And eventually Mercer becomes the antagonist and you have to kill him. It's a very cool premise of superhero constructs. It plays like Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, and you're going around, and it's a more mature vibe and theme. You're flying around, monsters, tentacles affecting New York. It was a cool idea, and we don't see Prototype anymore. It's gone. Deus Ex from Square Enix. Now, Square Enix, they gotta be the biggest bozos I think I ever seen in the gaming fucking landscape ever. Like, they sold like all their Western IPs completely. They sold Tomb Raider to Amazon. How do you fuck that up? And Deus Ex went along for the ride. The only Deus Ex I played was Deus Ex Human Revolution, and I remember really enjoying the game, having a lot of fun with Adam Jensen, going in, punching people with my cybernetic fucking enhancements. It was really fun. It was a fun little stealth sort of open world adventure Western RPG where I was having a really great time with it. And no more Deus Ex, because I think they don't care anymore. Tenchu, well, you know what happened with that. Tenchu Z came out and that was the end of it. Mirror's Edge from EA. I played a portion of Mirror's Edge 1. It was a first-person parkour game. You play as Faith and you're going around, jumping around in first person, fighting security guards. Sometimes you could shove them off buildings from what I played with Mirror's Edge Catalyst later on. But that's another one that is a really interesting and unique idea, at least with the first one, and we don't have anything since then. This sucks. LA Noire, people mentioned that. Let me go down the list. I'm looking at like now the Reddit thread. It's a thread that was done on Our Patient Gamers, and they have a couple of more examples that I want to point out here. I peeled some from this list, I'm not gonna lie. Midnight Club, oh my god, where the fuck is Midnight Club, man? Midnight Club was cool. I loved Dub Edition so much. Burnout, where's Burnout? We got another Need for Speed, but no Burnout again. And I swear, like, EA still owns like Criterion Games. F-Zero, Nintendo, they don't give a fuck about that. They don't give a fuck about that. Someone Someone put Drive Club? Drive Club? Wasn't that the free-to-play like PlayStation game that nobody played? I don't remember, but someone put that there. SOCOM is a tragedy upon epic proportions, and I don't understand why they can't bring back a third-person online tactical shooter that fucking rocks, man. Like, what the fuck? It's like, come on. Condemned was a great one, but I believe that Jace Hall like sort of owns that now, and I don't know what the fuck he's doing with that. Road Rash. Let's go down the list. Twisted Metal, the Twisted Metal no more, because I believe they canceled that. No more Sweet Tooth in game format. Instead, we do get the show that happened, and that was pretty good. The Darkness is another one. They could have, I don't know if they could have, or if they wanted to make a third game. I think that was sort of published by 2K Games. Like, correct me if wrong on that, because I really don't know. Go down the list. Alpha Protocol, I never played that, but apparently folks listed that game, and the list goes on and on and on for games that are dead now. The Suffering, fantastic fucking game. Midway's action horror shooter where you're in prison and you see all these people like running around. They were either symbolic of the lethal injection or hanging or a firing squad, and the monsters like represented that. Really cool and awesome experience, and we don't get nothing like that from fucking WB. It's like this is like now it's just Batman. Now it's just Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, and Harry Potter. That's it, because David Zaslav is trying to get that money. All right. Part of the reason why IP abandonment does happen is because these things just don't sell well. It's the reality of the situation. They don't sell well or strike fire, or sometimes they do sell well, and it's just not enough to turn into a franchise. And it's just so frustrating when you hear that revelation, that news, that information of why this IP abandonment happens. Sometimes there can be a line in the sand. At times there could be like a revival of a franchise, like years later. Maybe there is someone ambitious enough to put out a pitch and say, hey, we want to do another Eternal Darkness, or we want to remaster it, or we want to show people that there is still vested interest in this IP. And you're not seeing it now. You're not seeing it now, but here's the new idea. Or here's the old idea. You never know. That pitch sometimes could be like 5 years, maybe in 2 years, maybe in a year, maybe years out. But you do see some IPs get revived. I mean, Silent Hill, surprisingly, against all the odds, it was dead for like years, right? Against all the odds, Silent Hill never left the mouth of the gamers. Konami finally saw it, Bloober finally saw it, and now we have Silent Hill back in the limelight. It can happen. An IP sometimes won't be abandoned forever, but it is a miracle story for that to happen, and I believe that it shouldn't always be like that. It should be fresh talent always experimenting with these IPs, these people that are hungering to get on game developments and never had the opportunity. And maybe someone says, hey, The Suffering was cool, let's bring that back to the modern masses, let's make a modern action horror, and it would be kick-ass, right? I don't understand why these ideas shouldn't be revisited if they are really, really good ideas. If they are bad sequels and ideas and games that are, well, kind of ass, we've seen sometimes revivals in that department. Like, I mean, DMC2 should have been a fucking franchise killer, right? DMC2 was ass. They went back to the drawing board. DMC3 came out, fucking blew the doors off. They knew what they were doing. So again, maybe sometimes these bad games could get another chance if they do a sequel. I mean, I'm pretty sure if they made a Callisto Protocol 2 and it was way better than the first one, I would be fine with that, and maybe that could turn into a core franchise the second time around. Maybe not the first time because it didn't strike fire with everyone, but maybe the second time. You never know until you take that chance. So I want to leave this video with that optimism, that hope, and maybe someone will see it and go, yeah, man, I know what this guy's talking about. He's kind of, you know, he's kind of spitting here about IP abandonment and IP neglect, is that maybe the first time around was not that great, but the second time around, I mean, Killzone, right? The first one wasn't really all that special and spectacular, but the second one was a fucking godlike game. People liked it. So you never know until you give something like a proper fucking shot, right? You never know. But anyway, I want to sign off on this video. My name is Renegade Operative. Hopefully you enjoyed this sort of discussion piece on IP abandonment and neglect and where my thoughts are. And honestly, I do want to see some of these IPs that are dead come back into the future in some fashion, and maybe like a reboot or a remake. I mean, Doom fucking got rebooted and it turned out great, so you never know until you try. I am always up for creativity. If someone can put it all on the table, chips down, and say, hey, this idea, we think this is relevant right now, we could do this right now, and we could make a damn badass game out of it, why not, right? I'm fine with it overall. So we'll see what happens in the future. I definitely think there's going to be more IP revivals. What they will be, who knows, but hopefully they will be surprising. I will see you guys next time. Later.